Hello everybody, Halcrex here, and welcome to another Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 292. Now today we're going to be talking about the Talon it's Star League era mech that disappeared and has reappeared in the 3050, late 3050s, 3060 era. Well, the Talon is an 812-0, has XL engines, it's 35 tons, has 119 points of armor, has 11 double heat sinks, and it also carries around an ERPPC in the right arm and 2 medium lasers in the left arm. So, there. Got some decent firepower. When you think about it, you can fire all the weapons and run and only go up 1 heat. That's pretty respectable. I can get behind that. And being an 812, it's got some decent movement for creating those mods or pips to prevent it from being hit. But just hope that if it does get hit, it doesn't get hit in the torsos, right or left torso, because with 3 slots there, all it takes is 1 torso being taken out, and this is a dead mech. That's the only problem with it. But at least they put all their effort into making sure this thing would move as fast as it could. So, there you go. Now, this mech is pretty much, it's supposed to be a long-range fire support mech for the light forces. So if you got a light lance that's running around, this one carries around a bit of firepower, so it's going to be hanging back a little bit and firing away with that PPC. And you can fire the PPC and run and not worry about heavy heat at all. So that is the good thing about this mech. Now, like I said, the only drawback is the double heat, or the double, can't even say it, XL engines. But there's the give and take when it comes with the XLs. And I don't necessarily have a problem with the XL engines on a light mech that is trying to speed itself up to use the speed as its defensive mechanism. So, there. But, primary use of this thing is going around the edges, firing the PPC, and trying to do 10 points damage here and there when it can. Working in conjunction with, say, some medium heavies, trying to attract the attention as the forces are fighting it out. And then you have this is like a lance commander running around hitting the flanks. And then when you hit the flanks with this thing enough turns, some mechs are going to start losing their armor. They'll have some open spots, and then it's about mid to late game is when you'll take these lighter mechs and start moving in and doing pack hunting tactics, where if you got a lance of them, they might have spent all their time trying to keep the other lights at bay, and if those enemy lights are gone, then they can dive in and start harassing and picking on one mech using a pack tactic of swarm all over something and just unleash with all of their smaller weapons. And then when you do get within 9, you got the 2 medium lasers, so it can dish out up to 20 damage if it hits with everything. Now, the later in the game, when a lot of mechs are sitting around with a lot of missing armor, a 10-point shot and a couple 5-point shots have a tendency to find holes and do some good damage and start hunting for those crits. That then a lot of mechs, especially inner sphere ones, probably if they don't have case on board, you might be hitting ammo, and the next thing you know, these things are going up in Technicolor explosion. All right, so that's kind of like how I envision using this mech, and being that it's pretty actually a mech that has all these 3 weapons on board and the double heat sinks. It runs fairly cool. Fire everything when you get in close. You can do that for 4 turns, before you got to turn off one of the medium lasers and cool off, and then you can go for another 3 turns, cool off. See how this will work it? Yeah. All right. Now, there are a few other variants of this mech. Now, that was the 5W. Now we have the 5 Victor. This one is later in its production line, when the double heat sinks probably weren't longer available, and it may be running around with only 11 standard heat sinks, and it's carrying around an ERPPC. So the 5 Victor version drops the ERPPC for standard PPC. So you still get some decent damage, but you're cutting back on the heat profile, and you're dropping the battle value by 100. So there. And the battle value of the standard version comes in around a little shy of 1200. So you have that. Then the 5WEC, this one was Clan Ice Hellions version. This is a retrofitted version with for early clans. So when they're running around, just as they start having all the advanced clan tech, it has an enhanced ERPPC clan version, which is not bad. So it's right around 13.5 battle value. So now you got a clan mech with a little bit extra firepower. So something you might want to think about if you're going to play some like early clans fighting out against each other. And that's the Ice Hellions have it. So something they probably took with them on the Exodus, and then showed up. They may have showed up or actually used them all up, and eventually, don't have them. So that's kind of that concept that goes on right there. Then we have the 5 Zulu, the 5Z. This version takes the XL engine, replaces it with a light fusion engine. Okay. Drops it down 1 pip for speed. So now you're not an 8, you're now a 711. Has endosteel and ferrofibrous armor. So it has plenty of room on board for both those systems on board. And because when you went with the light fusion engine, you're using up less tonnage for savings. So you got to figure out how you're going to get that tonnage saved someplace. So the endosteel and the ferrofibrous are used, and then they replace the the 2 medium lasers and the PPC get replaced with 2 ER large lasers and 1 heatsink. So they take all that and throw it into the other. So you got 2 large lasers, but then you're running around with able to only dissipate 20 heat, and you're creating 24 to 26. So you fire that 1 turn and you slowing down, and so you're now 711 just by firing your 2 weapon systems. But you also have a C3 slave on board, so that can be incorporated into your network. So there's one thing about it is that you have you're the eyes and ears for that lance. So it probably behooves you only to fire the 1 of the ER large lasers. And to be honest, instead of having, I think it would have been better off running with the still kept the ER PPC, and then run around with the 3 medium lasers for in-close work. So when you get in close, you just flip over to the ER. You could have 3 ER medium lasers by this time, and then run those instead of 2 ER large lasers. So it'd run cooler. So you fire 1 or the other, or you could fire the PPC and 1 ER medium laser instead. So yeah, there's a way to balance it out. but it comes in just shy a few points of the standard version of the points when you're looking at that. Then we have the 6W whiskey, 6 whiskey. It carries a heavy PPC, and the armor has been replaced by heavy ferrofibrous armor, and the chassis replaced with Indo steel. So you got Indo steel, heavy fibrous, and a heavy PPC. So pretty much you're running around a little over 1,300 battle value, and then you run up on somebody, get in their face, and fire the heavy PPC and tear them a new one in one spot. It's like running around with a almost the equivalent of a Gauss rifle that on a light mech that actually has some speed. So there's that. Now, one of the things I've would think about is taking the standard early version, give it ferrofibrous armor, and then you could think about maybe adding C3 system on board too. So there's that. You may have to pull off a half ton of armor, dropping it down to, I think, 116 with ferrofibers. So you're only losing 3 points. So that could be like one spot in each of the back or something of that nature. And then turn it into more of an Ioneer recon style mech. You don't have the Beagle probe or the ECM, but you're able to use the network and help the guys behind you hit instead of you worried about hitting. So there's that. But that is the Talon in a nutshell. It's one of those mechs that actually could be very useful on the battlefield if you want to use it that way. It may just a slight tweaking and it will be a pretty decent mech. And I think most of that tweaking will become with the advent of adding some C3 to it. At least a slave, so it can be the eyes and ears. But overall, not a bad little mech for what it has for technology and everything. All right, so hit the old like button. Like and subscribe, share with friends, and we'll see you in the next one. Hellcracks out.